Welcome back to the Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt, and Minnesota Vikings football is back. The Vikings, purple and gold, will take the field this Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders, traveling to Allegiant Stadium for the first time ever. The Vikings will be playing at Allegiant Stadium, going to LA to take on the Raiders, who are currently 1-0 after winning in the Hall of Fame game. This will be held on Sunday, 3:25 on Fox and NFL Network. Okay, I'm so pumped. There's nothing that gets me more excited than doing these previews and recaps and making predictions. This part of the season is so exciting for me. You guys, for the next 17, 18, 19 weeks for the Vikings football, we're going to be doing this week in and week out where we preview every game for the Vikings. We recap every game for the Vikings. We break down the pain and excitement and love that is being a Minnesota Vikings fan. There's going to be a lot of painful moments that we'll be recapping on the show, and there's going to be a lot of proud moments that we'll be talking about. So make sure you subscribe to the show, make sure you like, and make sure you continue to tune in if you're a Vikings fan, because we're going to be doing this week in and week out, starting off with this one against the Las Vegas Raiders. Taking a look at injuries for this game on the Vikings sideline, Kirk Cousins has been ruled out due to COVID. On top of this, as you know, Irv Smith Jr. also has had a thumb injury, so he will not play the entirety of the preseason. Kirk getting COVID is kind of a blessing in disguise, though, because now he does have immunity, and it's good to know that this time around, Kirk getting COVID doesn't mean the entire quarterback room is locked down to the point where we have to sign players off the streets once again to play in preseason. Really excited to watch these players play. So if I was KOC, I wouldn't even play Kirk Cousins in the preseason. You can't risk him getting injured. So kind of a blessing in disguise when you really look at it like that. So the way we're going to be doing these previews is going to be a little bit different, taking a look at preseason than regular season. When we're doing previews in preseason, we're going to be looking more at how these players can perform and less on how the team can beat the other opposing team. During the regular season, we would typically look at how the Vikings can win the game. This, we're going to be looking at how good the Vikings look, pretty much. That's basically all. We care less about winning and more about just watching these players compete for the starting roles or backup roles, or even just a roster spot in general. Starting it off with quarterbacks, we have a competition right now at quarterback for the Vikings being between Sean Mannion, who's been with the Vikings for far too long, and Kellen Mond, second-year player out of Texas A&M. I did a list on players I'm most excited to watch this preseason, with Kellen Mond obviously easily making the list. Super pumped to watch this player play. Now, his rookie season was kind of a disappointment, but rookie quarterback seasons are disappointments all the time. I mean, just taking a look, I'm not trying to compare him with the all-time greats, but Drew Brees had a terrible rookie season. I mean, taking a look, Peyton Manning had an awful rookie season. Come on, don't judge quarterbacks based off of the rookie season. They haven't learned the system yet. Really excited to watch Kellen Mond play. As I mentioned, Kirk will not play this week and probably won't play the second week. We'll have to wait and see. But when looking at these players, Sean Mannion will likely start the game against the Raiders. When looking at Kellen Mond, we should get to see him play hopefully second half at least. We want to see Kellen Mond. This is the player we're really looking forward to see, is Kellen Mond, because like I said, probably don't want Sean Mannion to be our backup quarterback for the fourth year in a row. Taking a look at backup quarterbacks for the Raiders, they have a competition between Jared Stidham and Nick Mullins to take the backup quarterback role, both who they signed this offseason to back up Derek Carr. And then taking a look at running backs for the Minnesota Vikings, an interesting spot right here. As I've mentioned, Kene Iwango, I'm so pumped to watch this player play as a pure running back. Kene Iwango had an outstanding rookie season, and he was my rookie of the year the last year for the Minnesota Vikings. Why was he my rookie of the year? Because he was able to return kicks, and this was something the Vikings were not able to do since Cordero Patterson. Now, with that being said, he should start all three preseason games as a running back for the Minnesota Vikings, if hopefully he doesn't get injured. He missed the entirety of last preseason because he did get injured off of a kickoff right at the beginning of the game. So hopefully we get to see more of what he can do as a running back. Super excited to watch this player play, a player we all have to cheer for, because I'm going to be realistic here. Alexander Mattison will probably not be with the Vikings more than one more season. This is likely going to be his last season. We're going to need a new running back too, and the running back 2 spot is so important for the Vikings, as Dalvin Cook has been injured every year so far. Hopefully this can be Kene Iwango. If not, Ty Chandler is another player to mention here. Ty Chandler, a rookie who we drafted in the 5th round out of UNC, a player a lot of us are excited for. If you have not watched Ty Chandler's tape at UNC, go do so, because this player can run with the ball. This player is fast and can cut. He looks like a Dalvin Cook Jr. So go ahead, watch Ty Chandler play. Jake Vargas, a player that we are all familiar with. This will be his 3rd year with the Vikings, I believe, as a fullback. A player who's pretty big to be playing running back. I'd actually expect Jake Vargas to maybe make the roster as a tight end. He played tight end in college, so I'm excited to see what Vargas can do. We saw a little bit of him the last couple preseasons, but hey, well, Jake Vargas is another name to mention here. And then obviously, Kobach, the player we signed, UDFA from Toledo. should get some reps as well. And then wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings. You guys, this list, I was making this list and I was blown away with how good the wide receiver list is for the Vikings. Not only do we have Justin Jefferson, who is arguably the best in the league, Adam Thielen, who might be the best receiver over 30 in the league, and then KJ Osborne, who is just a stud. We have multiple receivers who are under the age of 25 right now who look like future superstars who we get to see during this preseason. It's going to be exciting because we know that obviously I didn't include Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and KJ Osborne on this list. Now we'll likely see them sometime in the preseason. If it's not this game, we'll likely see them week 2, week 3, one of them. I'm really mostly looking at this wide receiver 4, 5, and 6 spots for the Vikings. That being Amir Smith-Marset, who I've heard great things for. He had an outstanding rookie season as a wide receiver 5, I believe he was. Outstanding rookie season. Super pumped to watch this player play. I've heard great things about him. And then BC Johnson, a player we have not got to see much of. He did miss the entirety of his last season due to a torn ACL, I believe it was. Hopefully he can make the roster. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe that BC Johnson we saw his rookie season is in there somewhere, and we're just waiting for it to come out. Just haven't seen it since then. Jaylen Naylor, of course. We're all excited to watch the rookies play. This is the biggest thing we watch in preseason is the rookies. Jaylen Naylor, who we drafted in the 6th round, we will get to see him return punts this preseason, and we will likely get to see him take snaps on the second team for the Vikings as well. After Jaylen Naylor, we have Dan Chisena, Myron Mitchell, Blake Proehl, Tristan Jackson, Albert Wilson, Thomas Hennigan. So multiple names to mention here who are all playing for those wide receiver 6 spots because I believe the first 3 are kind of competing for 4 and 5 right now. And taking a look at these other players, Dan Chisena, special teamer, Myron Mitchell going into year 2, finally gets to prove himself. Blake Proehl will be making his debut with the team as he did miss entire rookie season. Tristan Jackson, we just signed off of waivers. Albert Wilson, the one veteran on this list, or longtime veteran on this list, who we signed from the Miami Dolphins. And then Thomas Hennigan, who we signed as a UDFA from... Where did we sign Thomas Hennigan? Appalachian State. That's right. Okay, taking a look at tight ends for the Minnesota Vikings. Like I mentioned, Irv Smith Jr. will not play in this game, so we're going to see some Johnny Munt action. If you're unfamiliar with this player play, all you got to know is KOC coached him in the past. We have heard great things about him, so we'll give him a shot. I mean, I'm a huge Tyler Conklin fan. I just wish he was still with the team. That's the one thing I really wanted. Or bring him Kyle Rudolph back. I mean, I was more of a Tyler Conklin fan. Wanted to bring him back, but we get to watch Johnny Munt play. Maybe he can prove me wrong. Ben Ellipson, also another Minnesota native to mention here, played college at NDSU, a player who's kind of been bouncing around the Minnesota Vikings preseason practice squad, pretty much around there. Zach Davidson. Now, this is a player I talked about that's super interesting, a player I'm so pumped to watch. He was a beast in college. This man, if you have not watched Zach Davidson's tape, go ahead, watch it. This guy is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. Now, I understand his tape is coming from Central Missouri. I mean, this is not a Power 5 school by any means. Still, the man's a beast. Excited to see what he can do. 5th round draft pick for the Vikings in 2021. Now his second year will maybe make the active roster. He didn't make the active roster last year, and this is probably due to Mike Zimmer just being an idiot. Nick Muse is another player to mention here, drafted in the 7th round, our rookie. Next up, interior offensive line. Interior offensive line is the biggest red flag and question mark for the Vikings in 2022. We know Christian Darrisaw is probably going to be, he looks very promising. Brian O'Neill's a stud. Taking a look at left guard, right guard, and center, it's a big question mark. We will likely see Garrett Bradbury, Ezra Cleveland, and Jesse Davis start for the Vikings maybe in this game against the Las Vegas Raiders. If not, Chris Reed could be playing for the starting center position. Austin Schlottman also playing for the starting center position. Jesse Davis playing for starting right guard. These are 3 guys we just signed off of free agency in order to potentially be our starters, 3 veteran players. After that, we have a lot of younger guys, with Ed Ingram being our rookie, who we drafted out of LSU in the 2nd round. We could see him take snaps on the 2nd and 3rd team for the Vikings, both at left guard and right guard. Same goes for Wyatt Davis, 2nd-year player out of OSU, Ohio State. Now could be playing second team or 3rd team at left guard or right guard. And then Kyle Hinton looking to finally make a name for himself. As a guard, he's been on our practice squad the last 2 seasons, so this season will maybe make the active roster. We'll have to wait and see what Kyle Hinton can do. Still a 7th round draft pick who's making it this long with the team. Still excited to see what Kyle Hinton can do for the Vikings. Wish Kyle Hamilton was on our team. Actually, kind of not. We'll get into this another time. We'll have to wait and see. Oli Udoh, we all know who he is for the wrong reasons. Josh Sokol, who we drafted as a UDFA we signed as a UDFA from Sacred Heart, who should be our practice squad center at best. Looking at defensive front for the Minnesota Vikings, really excited for this defensive front for the Vikings. I've talked about a few of these names already, and I'm so pumped to watch these players play. Starting it off, our starting defensive line right now, according to the unofficial depth chart, we have Dalvin Tomlinson, who's going to start at the 3 tech, Harrison Phillips going to start at the nose, and Arman Watts going to be the 3rd defensive lineman. This is our starting defensive line according to the unofficial depth chart the team released, which is a huge surprise because not only is Dalvin Tomlinson starting at the 3 tech once again, I thought for sure he'd start at the nose, but Arman Watts is listed as a starter, which I'm so excited for. This could mean that he's really improved and or proved himself. He doesn't need to improve. He had a great last season, has really proved himself this training camp enough to be a starter, and we have somebody who has stepped into that defensive line, 3rd defensive line spot role for the Vikings. That's been a big question mark. So pumped for Arman Watts. If you've been tuning into the show, you know this is, in my opinion, the most underrated player on this entire team goes to Arman Watts. Looking at our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th team defensive line, James Lynch, once again, we see him every preseason. Is now going into his 3rd year. He was drafted by the Vikings out of Baylor. I believe it was a 4th round draft pick. Jalen Twyman, a player I'm so pumped to watch. Jalen Twyman, out of everybody on this list, take a look at this list right here if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. Take a look in this list. Twyman is by far has the biggest upside out of anybody on this list. Watch this player play. This guy looks like Aaron Donald. This player is a beast. He could be our future 3 tech sometime in the future. So pumped to watch this player play. I've talked about him. He was on my 2nd most excited player to watch play. He missed his entire rookie season after being shot. He was a 6th round draft pick out of Pitt for the Vikings, I believe it was. Now going into year 2, we'll finally get to really make his debut with the team. So pumped to watch this player play. And then after Twyman, we have TJ Smith, who spent last year on the practice squad, hoping he can be backing up Harrison Phillips at the nose this year. We also have Bullard, who we signed off of waivers, Muse, the guy we drafted from Minnesota in the 5th round, a player who was drafted out of Minnesota to stay in Minnesota. And then McGill, who's now going into his 2nd year with the team, veteran player, another player playing for the nose tackle spot. We have Taylor, who is a veteran from the Niners, who we signed, and then Stevenson, who we signed as a UDFA from Tulsa. This Stevenson kid, watch out for this guy. This guy is 366 pounds. No running back is getting through him. No running back at all. You got to go around this guy. You cannot go through him. It's going to be interesting to see what this player can do. Basically, playing for a practice squad spot goes to him. We signed as a UDFA. So hopefully he surprises us. Edge rushers for the Vikings, and this is going to be so fun to watch these edge rushers play. I am so pumped for these guys. First off, Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter should not play 1 snap all 3 preseason games. They get injured just about every year, and it would be so idiotic for KOC, in my opinion, to play either Zadarius Smith or Danielle Hunter the entire preseason. You cannot risk these players getting injured. You already know they're great. Don't risk them getting injured. Taking a look at our other players, DJ Wadham, another player who we are all fans of in Minnesota, has really surprised us. I believe he was a 4th round draft pick and has already exceeded expectations. He's now going into year 3, still only 25 years old. Everybody on this list is 25 and younger. We have so many young pass rushers right here. Patrick Jones now going into year 2. We got to see 0 Patrick Jones action his rookie season. Now going into year 2, we will likely see him start against the Raiders this Sunday. We get to see Daenerys Robinson. A lot of Daenerys Robinson fans in the comments. I've seen you guys. I love this. I love the Daenerys Robinson love. 2nd year player out of Florida State. And then after that, we have Luigi Villain, another UDFA who we signed from Wake Forest. And then Mincy, who we signed off of waivers. And then McLeod, who we got as a UDFA from Miami. Miami at Ohio. Looking at these players, these are some young star players. Somebody on this list is going to turn into a superstar. Somebody on this list. I don't know if that's going to be DJ Wadham, who's going to continue to develop. Patrick Jones, who maybe surprises us. Daenerys Robinson, a lot of people say he has superstar potential. I agree. Luigi's another name to mention here. I think that player has superstar potential. Looking at these top 4 guys, somebody's going to be a superstar. We're just going to wait and see. I want to see what you guys, who out of this list you think is going to develop into a superstar, as they're all 25 and younger. That is unbelievable. And the next up, we have linebackers for the Minnesota Vikings. I already mentioned, don't play Eric Hendricks, please. With his injury concerns, he's been injured the last 2 years. You do not want to play this player. You already know he's great. Now looking at the players who should play against the Raiders and hopefully the rest of the preseason, Jordan Hicks, we probably won't see play this game. He might play this game. We'll have to wait and see. Taking a look at our 2nd and 3rd team linebackers, Brian Asamoah, who we drafted in the 3rd round out of Oklahoma. A player who's super fast. This player is, watch Brian Asamoah's tape. I believe taking him in the 3rd round was a massive overdraft. In my opinion, I would have liked to see Jeremy Ruckert taken. He could have been our starting tight end this year. We're going to have to wait and see. Still, Asamoah's a beast, drafted at the top of the 3rd round. Troy Dye, also another name to mention. This guy's 3rd year with the team, I believe. Troy Dye, 3rd year with the team, if I have that right. Yep, 3rd year player out of Oregon. We have Blake Lynch. I love Blake Lynch. This will be his 3rd year player out of Baylor. Blake Lynch has surprised all of us. We signed him as a UDFA. How often do you see UDFA guys already start games in their career, which Blake Lynch has done with the Vikings? Pumped to watch this player play. He is a beast. After Blake Lynch, we have Chaz Surratt going into year 2, who we drafted in the 3rd round out of UNC in 2021. Massive overdraft once again, in my opinion. We're going to have to wait and see how he does. Ryan Connolly, Minnesota native. Again, another veteran to mention. And then we have a player who we signed from Temple. And taking a look at cornerbacks, this is a entirely new cornerback list. Going into this offseason, we knew cornerback was the biggest need for the Vikings, and they brought in corners because the first 3 players that we're going to see most of in this game are all going to be their 1st year with the team. Taking a look at our starting corners, Cameron Dantzler and Patrick Peterson are expected to be our starting corners, so I'm going to assume that they won't play the first week of the preseason. Taking a look at who should play, Chandler Sullivan, who we signed from the Packers, has worked with Ed Donatel in the past. He will likely be our starting nickel for the team. Andrew Booth Jr., my favorite draft pick, drafted in the 2nd round by the Vikings from Clemson, youngest player in this entire list. That dude is only 22 years old. Super pumped to see what he can do. He was on my list of most excited players. Caleb Evans, another player to mention. He was drafted from the 4th round out of Mizzou by the Vikings. Took 2 players in the first 4 rounds for the Vikings. That's how much we needed defensive backs. We actually took 3 defensive backs because you're including Lewis Seen here too as well. Chris Boyd, another player. Yeah, Chris Boyd hype has kind of died down. He's playing for a contract. Probably not going to get it. We'll have to wait and see. Harrison Hand, a player, actually, a lot of people are really excited to see what Harrison Hand can do. Yeah, okay. We'll give Harrison Hand another shot. Perry Nickerson has played with the team a little bit now. This will be a 2nd-year veteran with the team. Same goes for Ty Smith, 2nd-year vet with the team, and Hairston, who we signed from the Denver Broncos. So we got a lot of new players here. Hairston, Evans, Booth, and Sullivan, all new players with the team, and the other players are playing for their roster spots. Taking a look at safeties, the biggest signing, most excited player for me to watch this preseason is gonna go to Lewis Seen, of course. Always got to put it to the 1st round draft pick. Everybody in preseason is most excited for the rookies. This is just a fact. Everyone wants to see what the rookies can do against NFL defenses. Taking a look at this, though, Harrison Smith should not play the entire all 3 preseason games. Don't want to risk him getting injured. Cam Bynum and Lewis Seen should be our starters for the 1st week of the preseason. This is based off of what I believe should happen. They haven't released the official depth chart, like I said, but we'll have to wait and see. Josh Metellus, backup strong safety. This will be his 3rd year with the team. 3rd year strong safety out of Michigan. Miles Dorn, also 3rd year player, UNC, safety in the past. And then Mike Brown, who is a UDFA from Miami, Ohio. Super pumped to watch all these players play, especially looking at Lewis Seen. And that basically wraps up all of the positions and players we should be watching play this Las Vegas Raiders team tomorrow. Vikings are coming back to hit the field, and I'm so pumped. We're going to do this week in and week out. Preseason, regular season, I don't care. Vikings football is